Welcome again to Business Sparks with Val. I'm so glad that you're here. So, today I want to answer one of the questions that I get asked the most out there, which is Val, how do I know that my business is going to work? And let me start by telling you that there is no way that you can, for all certainty, know if your idea is going to work before you actually do it. Because there are so many elements that come into play when understanding if an idea is going to make it. So it's impossible to predict them all before you're actually in it. But there are some signs that you can get from the markets, and you can look out for these before you actually start committing a lot of time, money, and effort. Because look, I get it. It can be extremely terrifying to start something and not knowing if it's going to work out, especially if it's new. And I've been there myself when I started. And a lot of people were trying to put me off from this business, telling me, hey, do you know that most businesses fail after 2 years of being in the market? And the statistic is exactly 80%. And I did it anyway. So I'm going to tell you exactly what to look for. You're listening to Business Sparks with Val, the podcast for expats and internationals who are done overthinking and are ready to build their business on their own terms. I'm your host, Valeria Kadelsky, business coach and founder of Spark Coaching with Val. Each week, I will bring you tips, learnings, and honest conversation so you can build with more clarity, more confidence, and a lot less second guessing. Let's get started. So as I said, I had the same kind of questions when I first started my business. And, I left my job around 2 years ago now. And while I decided that I was going to get coaching education and get training and certification, one thing is to be a coach, and another thing is to build a coaching business. There are so many people out there that are brilliant coaches, but they do not run their own business. They might do coaching through their current organizations or as a additional activity to their primary job. Not so many people have a thriving business in coaching full time. And I was very aware of this aspect from the very beginning, which I think helped me because it made me very aware of what are the things that I needed to look for and what I needed to do to make it actually in the market. So the first thing that I did for myself was I went out and I explored who was already established in the business. And I basically booked as many introduction calls with coaches as I could. And in those calls, I didn't just chit chat with them, but I asked very specific questions around how they build their business, what was their model, pricing, if they were willing to share, how many clients they worked with, how many hours per week they were working on coaching versus on their business, how long did it take them to get to their current level of clients, and so on. Another thing that I did was I actually found out that through my private health insurance, they offered coaching as part of one of the benefits. Usually they had therapy, which I was already using, but they also introduced coaching, which I thought, oh, this is actually a good sign because it tells me that people are requesting this as a service. So I booked my, the maximum amount of calls that I could through my insurance, but I did it through 3 different coaches. So I could experience 3 different styles and also see how, for example, they got through this type of contract and what did it mean, and just ask more about their education and so on. So this is something that no matter what kind of business you're in, you can do. But I'm actually going to tell you more in detail about what are the things that I think you should be doing to really understand, again, the signals from the market. So the first thing that I want you to try and understand is look if someone else is already doing what you want to do in any sort of capacity. It doesn't need to be exactly the same, but let's say, again, back to my own example, there are many coaches out there, right? As I said, the industry quite had a boom back in 2020. And from there, now it's 6 years later, it grew exponentially. However, I want to say that if you see that there's a competition in the market, that is actually a good thing. And that's because it means that there is a demand for that kind of service or product. And this is not just for coaching, but like for any kind of business that you want to build. It tells you that there is demand, and it tells you also that people are willing to pay to address this problem that the service or product is actually solving. Because if not, all these people would go out of business in, as we said before, around 2 years' time, right? So it's a good sign. And I know what you're thinking, because this is something that a lot of my customers also tell me is, but Val, but if there's so many people out there doing what I do, why would they come to me? And this is a topic, again, for another time. I'm going to do another episode about that and how you can position yourself. But the key point here is that I agree with you, not just because somebody else is doing it, you're automatically guaranteed success, because it does matter how you do it and how you position it. But let's just say, for the sake of the topic of today about uncertainty, is that it does remove that first layer of uncertainty that you would have otherwise if you were to create a completely new category of business, of product, or service that people didn't understand. Because that is a whole different game, because you need to not only sell what is that you're selling, but you need to also create the demand for something that people don't know yet they need. And that is much more difficult, and that needs a lot more efforts in terms of educating people into something. And so it's not impossible, but it does increase the level of uncertainty, which is what we're talking about today. Okay. So back to my original point about getting signals from the market to understand whether your business is going to work or not. The second point is you need to understand if you're solving a problem that is a need to have and not a nice to have. What I mean by this is, are you solving a problem that is pressing in someone's life or that is significantly enhancing someone's life? And if the answer is, I'm not sure, I really, really urge you to dive deeper into that and to understand what that is. Because it is much easier to sell a solution to a problem that is pressing and that is here right now, rather than, oh, I guess this would be nice to have, but actually maybe I could do without, and it's not that it will change my life completely. Back to examples, practical examples. The problem that I address with my type of coaching is talking to people that have been living abroad for a while. They've had a form of stability in their job for a while, but now they realize that they've been trying to, mold into structures and do something just because they needed that stability as expat in their life. And now they want more. They want freedom. They want ownership. They want all the things that basically made them move countries to begin with. But the way that they want it is not anymore within the same old structures of corporate life as they did before. They want work on their own terms. And this is a pressing issue right now because they're having growing frustrations, stress from carrying work. They're feeling demotivated. They know that they have to bring money at home because maybe they have, again, mortgage or family, a lifestyle they want to maintain. But at the same time, if they don't change this now, they know that this growing frustration, stress, and just the anxiety will grow to a level that will impact their personal relationships, their health, their overall sense of self and purpose. And this right now is the moment when they come to me and they say, okay, I really need your help because you know how it's done and you can guide me and I can save myself so much time and headache in trying to figure out on my own. All right. This is my whole sort of value proposition and anchoring to that really pressing problem. As opposed to if, the problem that you solve is a nice to have, meaning, oh yeah, I guess this could make my life better, but it will not change it drastically. It's not something that if I don't get it now, the consequences I can still live with. It's not that one or the other is wrong. But if you do sell a nice to have solution, it will take much more effort to try and understand how you communicate the value. And you would need to be much more intentional about how you do it. So, of course, it really matters to know which one you're building towards, and it changes everything about how you will show up, and also the chances of you growing and scaling something in the market in a specific period of time. The third part, and this is something that people sometimes forget, is the business model that you want to have, because not all business models are made equal, and some require more upfront risk and effort by default. So if, for example, you are looking to open a physical shop, you have to incur costs, already fixed costs that are immediate, versus if you are planning to do your business online and maybe it's a service. Equally, like if you want to build a product, you have to consider inventory, shipping, production, and all of these kind of things that, of course, will make the risk of your business a little bit higher because you need to invest upfront. Same with tech, you will need to build the technology first. So again, there is no right or wrong way, but in terms of that uncertainty, if you're building something that requires more upfront investment, you have less opportunity to start small and test in the market before you actually have something that you can share. That also then determines your level of risk aversity and how you will feel about that. So think about this before you start, because if you already know that you're super a risk averse person, to start off by having huge investment, it's probably not the best idea. To recap, what I want you to take away from this is that you don't need to have full certainty to start your business, but you do need to be willing to look at reality and the reality of the market. So talk to people that are already doing it and ask them so many questions and trying to understand what is that they're doing, and try and see the gaps that maybe you already understand. Okay, this is not how I want to do it, or I can see that this is not really working for you, and just, take it away with you. And the second is talk to people that are actually your potential clients and customers, and trying to understand really what it is, their problem that they're having, trying to note down the language that they're using and understand whether the solution you would want to offer is a nice to have or a must have. And then ground your decision in something real, not just something that theoretically should work in a certain way, but really try and understand what are the investments and commitments that you need to make this work, right? Because confidence also comes from there, from knowing that your decisions are grounded in reality and in data and information that is tested with real people, because your reality is and will be very different than the realities of other people already doing it out there. So these are the three layers. And I know that at this stage you might still be like, well, I did all of this already, but seriously, I'm at the stage where I don't know what my next step is, and I am in a completely blank type of mindset right now. I get it. It happens. And I got you. I am going to link in the show notes my business readiness check, which is a very short form where you can answer a few questions about what is that you're trying to build, what have you done so far, where do you feel more stuck? And I will reply to you with a personalized 5-minute video where I will give you my honest opinion and advice on what I think you should do next. And if this episode was helpful for you, again, remember to subscribe so you know when the next ones are coming, and share it with a friend or someone that is also building. And I am now going to go outside because it's, again, another sunny day. And I probably will have the next episodes from Italy soon enough anyway, because I have a whole busy schedule between weddings and visiting family and so on, which I'm very excited about. So let's see how this will look like next times. But until then, go out and make this happen. Take the first step. Thank you for listening to Business Sparks with Val. I hope today's episode sparked something for you. You can find all my resources, book a free clarity call, or explore working together at sparkcoachingwithval.com. And if this episode was useful, leave a review or share it with someone who's building their own thing abroad. Until next time, your business is waiting. Go make it real.